Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days for today's video. This will take us to the middle of August. We'll also have a look at the CFSV2. That will take us into the start of September. So it's an extended look ahead for today's video. We'll begin though by having a look at what's happening in the tropics in terms of the storms, both the Atlantic and the Pacific. See what's going on in terms of storms and hurricanes. Just say that coming up this evening we'll have a video looking at events for this coming weekend. It's a Bristol Balloon Festival, I think, so I'll have a look at weather for that over the weekend. So we'll start off by having a look at the Atlantic. This is the latest in terms of tropical disturbances, storms and hurricanes in the Atlantic. I mean, it's not much going on actually. We've just got this yellow X just here in the middle of the tropical Atlantic Ocean. It's an area of thunderstorms. It has less than a 40% chance of becoming a storm or a hurricane over the next couple of days, so only a low chance of becoming a tropical storm. Been a very quiet start to the 2018 hurricane season in the Atlantic. Of course, it's early days. We're only into the early part of August, and the main part of the hurricane season will be through September and October. So we're early on in this, but because the sea surface temperature anomalies through the tropical Atlantic are quite cool this year, we're not expecting a hugely active season, but I expect things will get going a little bit more. It will liven up probably in the next few weeks. Things are much livelier though over in the Pacific. So this is the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean in the tropical region. We've got 3 storms. So we've got this area. This isn't a tropical storm yet, but it has got a 60% chance of becoming a tropical storm in the next few days, or a 40 to 60% chance of becoming a tropical storm in the next few days. And then we have actually got tropical storms John just there, and Alina just there, Alina over towards Mexico. And these do look like major disturbances, and they might get themselves up to hurricane status in the next day or so. And then, of course, we've also got Hurricane Hector. That has moved out of the eastern part of the tropical Pacific, which is just there. Moved into the central tropical Pacific now, and there it is. It's a Category 4 hurricane, so it's still a major storm indeed, with sustained winds of over 120 miles an hour. The region that is heading towards, this gives you a rough idea of where we are. So this is kind of like the eastern equatorial Pacific around here, or tropical Pacific around there. This is the central part of the tropical Pacific just here. So that's Honolulu just there, and then of course we've got Japan over there, way in the eastern part of the Pacific Ocean, I should say western part of the Pacific Ocean. So it looks like this storm is heading towards Honolulu, and it may give them a little bit of a battering in the next few days as it bears down on that island region just there. Major storm with Hurricane Hector still causing a lot of problems. 140 mile an hour winds with Hurricane Hector in the central part of the tropical Pacific. So major storm still going on there. So all the activity on the Pacific side at the moment, less so on the Atlantic side, but I would expect the Atlantic will start getting a little bit more active over the next few weeks. Right, so coming back closer to home, these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days from the ECMWF, courtesy of the Penn State University. Got the ECMWF on the top. We haven't got anything on the bottom today. The GFS part of this chart hasn't been updated. So these are mean flow charts for 7 to 10 days time. It takes us to the middle of August. We find that we've got below average heights down to our south and southeast. That's an area of low pressure. Above average heights out to the northwest. So that's a different pattern to what we've had through much of this summer. The flow and the jet is doing something like that. And so that's a lot more unsettled actually. You would expect showers or excuse me, or longer spells of rain to be coming in with that. And it could also be turning a little bit cooler as well as the air comes down from the northern part of the Atlantic, a little bit like that. So cooler and more unsettled up to the middle of August has been the message for some time, and it continues to be. So as I say, we haven't got anything on the bottom today because the GFS has not updated on those charts. GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles looking like this. We're looking at Belfast in Northern Ireland today. So the red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average for Belfast. A drop in the temperatures on the way, starting very warm just today, but by tomorrow it'll be a lot cooler. And then the rest of the week is looking cooler and fresher, particularly in the northwest. But you'll feel it down in the south and the southeast too. You'll have one more hot day in the southeast tomorrow, but once that's gone, then by Wednesday we're all going to be feeling the effects of the much cooler Atlantic flow, which really will be turning things a lot fresher through to the second half of the week. Now beyond that, into the weekend and next week, so we see the temperatures are close to the 30-year average in the extended range of the ensemble, which is taking us into the second half of August now. Basically, we find that the temperature ensembles are actually going a little bit warmer than average. There are a few quite hot members beginning to appear in the second half of the month, so we may have another go in the second half of the month of getting things a little bit hotter. But of course, that's a very long way out. It's in the extended range. Certainly, I think we can say the next week to 10 days is likely to be significantly cooler and fresher. Once today is out of the way for most of the country, once tomorrow is out of the way for the far southeast. And then where we go beyond that as we get to the second half of August, that is more speculative. As far as precipitation is concerned, so increasing rainfall spikes through to the end of the week and the weekend. It does look as though the weekend could actually turn really quite wet indeed. Remember, this is for Northern Ireland, so it is exposed to the areas of low pressure moving in from off the Atlantic, but it does look pretty wet there as we go through to the weekend. And then into next week, actually, we've got more rainfall spikes coming through as well. So that does look a lot more changeable compared to anything that we've seen this summer. Really has been a very dry summer, even in the northwestern part of the UK, and that does look rather unsettled to say the least. Temperature anomalies are looking like that from the 6th through to the 14th of August, coming out cooler than average for northern and western parts of the country. Still a little bit warmer than average down in the south and southeast. Will these go cooler than average for the whole country in the next day or so once we get today and tomorrow's heat out of the way from the south? We'll have to wait and see. But it certainly looks cooler compared to what we've had through a lot of this summer, even if the south is still coming out ever so slightly above average. Notice that over across eastern parts of Europe it is turning hotter there, so it looks like the heat is being pushed over to the eastern side of Europe and perhaps starting to show signs of cooling down in the west and the northwest, at least for a time. Temperature precipitation anomalies are looking like that, so the northern part of the country comes out average to possibly even a little bit wetter than average for Scotland and Northern Ireland. England and Wales still coming out a bit drier than average down there. They might start trending a bit wetter over the next couple of days. That's how the GFS is looking then for Thursday, and by then we are all into that much cooler and fresher run of west to northwest winds. The low pressure to the north of Scotland is the main driver now, and it's moving the air in from off the Atlantic. The ridge has given us all of the hot weather over the past few weeks, but it's being pushed into central and eastern parts of Europe, and with it, so the hot air is going into central and eastern parts of Europe as well as the northwest gets these cooler west to northwesterly winds. Into the end of the week and the weekend, we've got this area of low pressure developing out in the Atlantic. Quite a lot of uncertainty in the exact track of this area of low pressure. If it goes to the north, it's going to bring the wettest weather to Scotland and Northern Ireland, but if it's a little bit further south, then it could bring some quite wet weather in across England and Wales. So we have to firm up on the exact track of that area of low pressure. But you see, it is looking like a rather changeable, rather showery weekend, to say the least. This is Sunday, and low pressure then is very close to the country, so it does look rather cool, rather unsettled over the weekend. The wettest weather will probably be expected with that in the north and west, but all places, even in the south-southeast, could get some showery conditions. Through to next week, we set up a little bit of a north-south split, so we've got the Azores high down to our southwest. It's trying to ridge in. And it is ridging across France, so it is protecting southern parts of England possibly from the wettest of the conditions. So early next week, probably mainly dry, temperatures close to average in the south. But north still looks like you're being influenced by the jet stream, really. So I would expect Scotland and Northern Ireland will continue to, at very least, have showers, possibly even some longer spells of rain. Into the extended range, this takes us to day 10. We have got the Azores high beginning to strengthen a little bit across France, so that's time to bring up some warmer air into the south by day 10 as these areas of low pressure are out to the north and the west of the country. And then very briefly in the extended range with this GFS run, it does turn quite hot. Again, we've got the ridge building to the east, but it's all very unstable now. It's not the pattern that we've been in through the summer, which is a very strong and very stable ridge of high pressure from the Azores to Scandinavia. It's not that, so although it does turn briefly a little bit hotter there around Friday the 17th of August, it's more of a typical UK type pattern, which is a couple of fine days, and then along comes the thundery breakdown. There's an area of low pressure moving up from France, bringing thunderstorms and clearing away any heat very quickly. So by the time you get through to Monday the 20th of August, we're actually back into a much cooler and fresher northwesterly flow. This is all looking much more typical of what you would expect in a normal UK summer. A normal UK summer will have warm weather at times and could actually get quite hot for a day or two, but it quickly breaks down. You don't expect it to extend on for several weeks as it has tended to do through this summer. So it looks more typical really this August of what you would expect in a UK summer once we get the next couple of days out of the way. That's how we finish up of this GFS run, which is Wednesday the 22nd of August. Again, the Azores high is trying to throw up a little bit of a ridge from the southwest, but as long as these areas of low pressure are close to Scandinavia that we've got here, that's the big change, losing the Scandinavian high. As long as that's the case, this ridge from the Azores, yes, it may throw up a ridge, it may settle things down for a few days, warm things up, but it won't be a sustained hot pattern while we've got these areas of low pressure and the jet stream rolling around the top of the ridge of high pressure. That's how the ECMWF is looking. So again, cooler, fresher, showery conditions at the end of the week. Into the weekend, looks rather unsettled. That's Saturday. Low pressure bearing down on the country, so it looks a little bit wet and windy actually, bad, especially for northern and western parts of the country. That's Sunday, still showery. The wind has turned into the north there, so rather cool. With showers in northern parts of the country. That continues to the start of next week, that cool showery stuff as well. Into the more extended range, again we tried to build this ridge from the southwest, not really coming to much though, and actually at day 10, which is Thursday 16th of August, we've got the next area of low pressure looking like it's about to roll in from off the Atlantic, so no quick return to the heat wave there. And then the GM looks like this, so again rather showery and cool at the end of the week, and then we keep these rather showery conditions going over weekend into the start of next week as well. That's how we look by day 10, trying to throw up this ridge from the Azores high. Still rather cool though with that, because the wind still remains from a northerly type direction, so again it's not going back to the sustained heat that we've had over the past 2 or 3 months. So the cool down is on course, yes, and we are going to try and throw the ridges back up from the Azores high, but at the moment it doesn't look as though we're going to lock into another prolonged spell of hot weather, certainly before the middle part of August. What happens in the second half of the month, of course, that is more speculative. So let's have a look at the CFS V2 for the next month. So these are 500 millibar heights. They're broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period will take us from the 6th to the 12th of August. We find that we've got the ridge that's given us a heat wave moving into central and eastern parts of Europe in the week ahead, with below average heights to the north of Scotland and also pulling back into the middle of the Atlantic. That looks cooler and more unsettled. The flow on the jet is going like that, so we're getting more influence from the jet stream there And certainly for the northern western part of the country, you can expect showers or longer spells of rain in the week ahead. However, we go through to week 2, this is the 13th to the 19th of August, and the CFS wants to build this ridge back very quickly to our east. So that would bring a lot of dry and hot weather back there from the 13th to the 19th of August. Not much sign of that on the shorter range models, I have to say. There's no real sign of that on the GFS, the ECMWF, or the GM. We did see with the GFS, there is a hint of a little bit of a mini heat wave for a maybe, not really a heat wave even, just a mini sort of hot couple of days around the 17th, 18th, but very quickly breaking down to thunderstorms. There's no sign of in the shorter range that we bring this big ridge back from the east. So the CFS wants to return us to the heat wave, but whether that will actually come off, we need to wait and see. And then we go through to week 3, which is the 20th to the 26th of August, and again we've got this ridge to the northeast of us, and we're bringing in those very warm to hot easterly winds again with that. So the CFS, a long-range model, definitely wants to go back to heatwave conditions in the second half of the month. That's how we finish up the week 4, which is the 27th of August to the 2nd of September. By that point, the ridge is beginning to push towards the northeast, with below-average heights developing out in the Atlantic. That looks more unsettled. Still quite warm probably, but certainly bringing in showers or longer spells of rain with more influence from the jet stream from off the Atlantic from the very end of August and the start of September. Temperature anomalies in the week ahead with the CFS V2 are coming out cooler than average through the country. It hasn't really picked up on that over the past few days, I don't think. So this cool down that's happening in the next few days has taken the CFS by surprise. So I think we have to be a little bit careful about its more extended output. But it is going for a cooler than average week, especially for the north and west in the week ahead. But we go through to week 2, and very quickly it is returning us to hotter than average conditions. And then we go through to week 3, and those temperature anomalies in week 3 are looking warmer than average again. And then week 4 rounds it all off, and that one is also looking substantially warmer than average to the 27th of August to the 2nd of September. Rainfall wise, the week ahead is drier than average in the south still, near normal with precipitation in the north. Week 2 precipitation close to average for most of us. Perhaps it's been a little bit wetter than average, probably from thunderstorms in the south. Week 3 is close to average in the south, drier than average in the north. And then week 4 looks like it's a breakdown going on then, and particularly for the west it is turning rather wetter than average. Not sure how seriously we can take the CFS at the moment, because it hasn't really picked up on the cool down that we're going to get in the next few days. So we have to wait and see on that. It wants to bring us back to heatwave conditions by the middle of August and extend them through to the second half of the month. There's no sign of it on the shorter range output. Both the GFS, the ECM and the GM, they show no signs of a return to the heat wave within the next week to 10 days. Remember, we can't say what's going to happen in the second half of the month from the shorter range output. So it could be that heat wave will come back in the second half of the month. But up to the middle of the month, the shorter range models don't show a return to the heat wave. But the CFS wants to get us there very quickly, get us back to hot conditions. So we need to wait and see what's going to happen. We are in a transitional period now. We are transitioning from the hot weather that we have through the summer to something cooler and more unsettled. It could be that the CFS just wants to revert back to the default pattern of the summer. Equally, it could be that the shorter range models are overplaying their hand with this breakdown and they're going to over top with it. So basically we need to just wait and see how this is going to play out. But what we can say is that very clearly in the next few days temperatures will be cooling down up to the weekend and the start of next week. There's no sign of anything hot or sort of hot conditions up to the 7 to 10 day time frame. Right, so that's brought you up to date with everything. Later on today, we're going to have a look at the weather for the coming weekend in terms of events that we're happening over the weekend. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.